I've prepared this data set that we've got from Rijkswaterstaat. It was provided to us for training and documentation. Rijkswaterstaat is the authority of the waterways in the Netherlands. It's EM 2040 dual head data, and they were trying and find the best settings for the system. And it's a nice data set for demonstrating the Qimera cleaning tools. As you can see here, this is the QINSy navigation display. And I would like to show you that in QINSy Online navigation display, it's already possible to start some pre-cleaning before you take your data set to Qimera for more cleaning. So if you have a look here, for example, there are some outliers outside the surface which you can take out using this erase button there. So you can just click on it and then polygon around that, and it takes away some soundings. So it updates the dynamic surface and it updates the QPDs in the project. So you're working directly on the QPDs. You can also do this during online recording. Once you've finished off the recording and you're not happy with the line because of, well, maybe for example a height shift, you can just cut out the data and then redo the line and then go from there. So what I'll do now is I'll close the controller, and then you'll see this interface, and it will ask me to start Qimera on exit, and I'm okaying that. So it will fire up Qimera. This is the latest version that was released last week. As you can see, there is this interface, and it lets me choose what I want to do. Do I want to load the project for point cleaning, or do I want to load the project for full sonar processing? So today we're going to discuss the point cleaning. We're not looking into full sonar processing yet. If you are licensed to do point cleaning only, you will not be getting this question. So you will only be getting this question when you're licensed to do anything that you want in Qimera. If you don't want this question again, you can just check this checkbox there, and it will be added to the remembered prompts. Okay, so now the project is loaded. It's loading the QPD files of the project. It's loading the dynamic surface. It goes pretty fast. So there it is. What can we see? So, well, what can we see? We see the dynamic surface on the 4D scene. This is what we call the 4D scene, or the main overview window. So, and on the upper left, we see the QPD files that have loaded. On the project layer step, we see that there is a dynamic surface. On the right side, we've got the cleaning, we've got the selection buttons. On the top here, we've got the filter toolbar and filter movement key. So if you make a slice, it helps you to move the slice forward or backwards. And the keys over here are the ones that will fire up the slice editor or 3D editor. Please also notice that when I brought the project into Qimera, that it only loads the workspace that I need, so it doesn't open any windows that I don't need. And Cloud required to load the project through Processing Manager and then build a QTM for the QPD, and then you have to tell Cloud which online blocking to apply, but Qimera applies the QINSy blocking, and the user won't have to check any checkboxes anymore to apply the online blocking. In Qimera you can also change blocking settings if needed. So what I'll do is I just create a quick selection there, create a scroll reference line and a slice box that's drawn perpendicular to that line, and then I'll just click on the 2 key on the keyboard. So that's one of the hotkeys. And what you see here on the lower right, the light gray soundings are the soundings that have been rejected by the QINSy Online blocking. So these soundings have been blocked already online during acquisition when writing the QPD files. The dynamic surface, if you select it, you can do all sorts of, you can make all sorts of settings to the dynamic surface. You can, for a start, set it to shallow, and then it will reveal the spikes, and you can color by standard deviation, and then change the color map range to have a better idea of the minimum maximum values in your dynamic surface. You have to click left on the left side and click right on the right side to adjust the color map to the minimum and maximum standard deviations in your grid, in your dynamic surface. Also the color maps, so you can load color maps here. There are many color maps to choose from, as you can see. My favorite is of course the QINSy, the QPS color map, but there are many more color maps to choose from. You can also create your own color map and then apply that. Okay. I'd also like to draw your attention to the service edit overview here on the lower left. So once you made a selection and have fired up 2D editor or slice editor or 3D editor, you can see where your selection is at. I'll get to this later on in more detail, what it does, and yeah, I'll explain that later, what you can see in service overview window and what you can do in there. Also, the job activity is a nice one to explain. You can't see anything really in there now, but if I'm going to apply a filter later on, you can see the progress in there, so you can see how long it will approximately take to for the filter to finish. The dynamic surface, a little bit more background on that. The dynamic surface is the working grid, and that's the grid that's built from the QPDs. So if you do any editing, any cleaning on your data, the QPDs will update and the dynamic surface will update accordingly. So there's interaction between the QPD and the dynamic surface. The dynamic surface, you can choose, that's over there, when to update it. If you choose to always update the dynamic surface, so if you set it to always, the dynamic surface will update immediately after the manual editing or the automatic filtering is done. And if the dynamic surface is set to never update, so you can also set it to never. I'm going to do that right now, but you can give that a try. Well, if you would set it to never, it would only update once you've told the dynamic surface to do so by setting it to always later on. So for example, after you've finished all your cleaning, then set it to always, set it back to always, and then it will update. What are the advantages and the disadvantages of the different update methods? Well, always, the advantage of always is that the dynamic surface will only update the selection in where you've done your editing in. So that's pretty fast and you'll immediately see the updates. And the never is convenient when you have many spikes to delete, or if you want to run a filter and see what it does, and then do lots of additional manual cleaning, for instance, all over the place. And then the dynamic surface will entirely update. So also where you haven't been editing. So in this mode it might take a bit longer to rebuild the grid. But the bottom line is editing and cleaning in Qimera mean you're working directly on the QPD, and the dynamic surface is built from the QPD. So no temporary file like a QTM is created. Okay, let's do some cleaning now. I set the depth layer to shallow, color by standard deviation, got the right color map there. And why do I do this? I would like to start off with demonstrating the most efficient way of data cleaning. So if you don't have much time to clean your data set, this is a good way to do it. Of course, there are other methods if you have more time to do it, and I'll explain that later. But for now, I'll show the easy way. I start off with taking a snapshot from the dynamic surface. I go dynamic surface and then take snapshot as a static surface. I call it static surface base. And okay that. And why do I do this? Well, I can use the static surface as a reference for comparison after the cleaning. I can also create, if I use the right mouse button here on the 4D, I can create a quick profile there. And then, well, yeah, so that's the right mouse option here on the 4D scene now. Just close it right away. It's just to show you what you can do with your right mouse button. I'll get to some more right mouse button options later on. Get the slice editor back in. Turn that off for now. So what I'll do now is what most people would probably want to do. They want first kill the outliers that are outside the surface, like cells here, cells there. So how can you get rid of those? Well, that's fairly easy. You can just go here, which is the instant service filtering mode. You can also get there by hitting the 4 key on your keyboard. So yeah, there's a hotkey on your keyboard. Just click it there. Reject soundings, and then what I'll do is I'll just draw a polygon around these cells, and then they immediately removed. So you can just keep doing that, and then so you can start off with like a pre-cleaned surface. So like I just showed you in QINSy navigation display, you can do some pre-cleaning, you can do some cleaning here, get rid of outliers outside the surface, and there you go. So that's the first thing you could do. That's the quick disable soundings option. So the next thing is the scroll selection, to show you how we can move your slides forward and backwards. You can make the scroll selection, you go slice editor, and you can use the W and the S keys on your keyboard and then move the slides forwards and backwards. And you can also use the other selection keys that you find on the right side on the toolbar. So you can use a rectangle or other selection keys, and you can just move, just hit W or S or D to go back, or the A key. So it's the W, A, S, D keys that the gaming. So what do we see? Yeah, we've got the gray soundings there. We've got the we've got some spikes here. What I'm going to do, so the first thing I would like to show you is how can you apply a spline filter. Typically, most people want to start off the cleaning with applying a spline filter. So how can you do that? You go here to on the top toolbar, you go to the filter toolbar, and for example, if you want to run a spline filter that's called NL Norm A, so that's the one that's used in the Netherlands, you can go manage filter profiles, and then you can just give it a name. So you call it like spline NL norm A. Oh, that's a double A, norm A. So it's there, spline NL norm A, and then you click on this plus here on the upper right, and it lets you select the spline filter. You can choose the preset, and then you go here. There's this little arrow there, and you can just select it from the list. It's a medium spline filter. So you can just OK that, and now the filter has been added to my list of filters. So there are a couple of default filters, and this is the one that I've just added. So that's the spline NL norm A. That's the one I just added to the list. So that's the active filter now. So how to apply it? Well, I can just now apply it on the slice editor. And before I do so, I just ensure I have set the save edits to manually. And that leaves me, well, this lets me undo the filter. So if I run the filter now, I can run it another time if I want. And if I'm not happy, I can undo it. So there's an undo button. So you can just undo that. So you can go back a couple of times. So just let me just run it again. So it's done quite a good job, but there are still some spikes left, which I can just remove manually. So I can just go normal edit and then go to the selection keys, and you can hold the mouse and pick the option that you want. So you can reject inside the rectangle or outside, or you can also accept inside or outside the rectangle. So just now reject inside, go there, do some manual cleaning there. As you can see, it's a bit more, it's darker gray, and here you can see, okay, this is manually rejected, and you can now save. If you're happy, you can save that. Let's explain a little bit more about how to save the edits on the slice editor. Like I just said, the manual would let you undo the last steps. The automatically, so if you save the edits automatically, that will update the appropriate dynamic surface. So each time you move the edit area or exit slice editing, Qimera will automatically save and update the appropriate dynamic surfaces, and the instantly will immediately save the edits on a slice editor. So you will not be getting any questions if you want to save the edits. Okay, if you're happy with the filter results, you can run the filter on a larger area. For example, apply it inside the selected area with many spikes. You can make a polygon, for example, and then run the filter in there. So I'm going to do that right now. So I go to the right side, to the toolbar, make the polygon there. So this is my polygon, and I can, for a start, right mouse click. So that's the context menu that we've implemented and added to the right mouse button. You can save this selection for future use. So you can create a line object from the current selection and then give it a name. So you can use it again later on. I call it polygon for spline. Okay, so this is my current selection now. So this polygon is my current selection. And I can just run now, apply the spline filter inside that selection. And you just hit this key there on the top of the filter toolbar. You can run the filter profile inside the selection. You can also use Shift+R on your, as a keyboard combination to do this. So running it right now. And as you can see here on the job activity, you can tell, okay, the filter is running, and it's now almost halfway. I think it's about a good time, Kat, to ask you if there are any questions coming in.
No?
Not yet?
Wait.
Okay.
There is just one come in. After saving the QPD files, could you open one of the QPD in Processing Manager and try to edit it again?
Oh, yes, you can. Yeah. All the edits are retained, so the status flags and the status of the soundings in the QPD are retained, so you can go back and forth between Validator and Qimera. Yes. Any more questions? No more questions? Okay. So not sure if you've noticed, but the filter's done a good job. What we can do to, well, as a health check or a QC check is to see what has been rejected by the spline filter. I'm going to make a small selection here. Go there and then fire up. I use the 3 key on my keyboard to launch 3D editor. Okay, what do we see? With the gray soundings are the rejected soundings, so I can just for now hide them so you can see what's left. So the purple ones are left by the filter. So if you go select by and then spline filter, you can tell which ones have been rejected by the spline filter. So the white ones are the ones, the white crosses are the ones that have been rejected by the spline filter. I can clear that, and what I also can do is I can prove, no, not yet. What I'll do now is hide rejected, do some additional manual cleaning, so I can just use one of the selection keys over here. I'll use the lasso around the soundings. There is no correlation with any other line overlapping data, so I'll just, I think I can just safely remove these. Just hit the R on the keyboard, and that rejects the soundings that I've just selected. I can go there, I can just quickly reject soundings, and what I'll do is I enable the reject soundings again, go select by, manually reject it, and here you can see the ones that have been rejected manually. So these are the ones that I've just rejected manually. So what I'm going to do now is save this and explain the service edit overview. So, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that you can quickly switch between 2D and 3D editor. So you can just, if I just click 2, so this is my actual selection. I can just click 2 and that fires up slice editor again. I can just click 3 on the keyboard, that fires up 3D editor again, and so on. Here on the lower left, you can have a look there, and then you can see the red area here. That's the area that I've been editing in. So I've been filtering and manually cleaning in there. And the gray areas over here are the ones that I've visited. So I haven't done any editing or manual editing, but I have looked at it. For example, if you feel, okay, I'm done with the editing and I can tell my co-workers, okay, this is done, you don't have to revisit this, you don't have to double check it again. You can mark the area as a checked area. So what you can do, for example, this piece is you go right click on the 4D scene and then set checked area, and then you go dynamic surface and go shading, highlight by, and then checked flag. So here you can tell, okay, if I now make a new selection there, okay, this is where I've edited the data and I don't have to look at it again. Okay. So what have we done? We've tried the spline filter on the slice editor. We've seen it's done a good job. We've applied it to a larger area. We did some additional manual cleaning, and now I'm going to explain how you can get rid of the spikes that are still left in the data. That's what we call the spike hunting. Before I do this, are there any questions, Kat?
It's all right. I'm handling them in the text at the moment.
Okay, so maybe one that you would like to mention that we can just now discuss?
Can you lock the aspect ratio in the slice editor?
Yes, you can. If I understand the question correctly, so you've got your selection here. I hope I understand it correctly. Maybe you can double check with the person who asked. You can turn off the auto zoom or the auto track. So if you turn that off, it will always lock to the minimum and maximum in the no, that's not true. It will lock to the zoom view that you've chosen. And if you set this to, if you activate this, then it will scale or zoom to the minimum maximum that it finds for the selection. Is that an answer to the question? And if not, let us know, then I'll try again.
That's fine.
Maybe they can let us know if that answers the question. Okay, now I'll demonstrate the spike hunting. So how can you do that? There are a couple of spikes left, of course. I mean, that's always, the spline filter might just leave some data in there. So what you can do, you can just make a small selection. I've got a selection there, and I like to do that in 3D editor. I prefer to do that in 3D editor rather than slice editor. I can just go 3D editor there. It opens there. Everything's on one screen. Okay, that's fine. Disable rejected soundings. I see some spikes left there. So what I'll do is I hit the Alt and the left mouse key on my keyboard as a key combination, and that just moves my selection to that spot, and it fires up, it selects the data on the slice editor. So you can just go there and then quickly lasso around the points and then reject. And then you can do that as long as you want. And it updates the dynamic service immediately. So there are a few more there. You can just do some additional manual cleaning there and then reject, and there you go. And then save that. Okay, and then, well, when you're done, then you can continue with the next step in your process. So I think I finished off explaining the efficient way of doing it. So if you don't have much time to do your cleaning, what you can do, I'll just close this down. Just quickly recap. Set the dynamic surface to shallow, depth layer shallow, color by standard deviation. That reveals the spike in your data. Apply spline filter. Do some additional manual cleaning in slice editor. Use the spike hunting method or 3D editor, whatever you prefer. There is another way. That's what we call the fixed slice select mode, and then you can Qimera can divide the area in partitions or so-called validation rectangles, and then you can systematically step through your whole data set and then make sure you don't miss any areas. So well, how can you do that? I'll show you how you can do that. So you just make a quick selection here with the fixed slide select. So that's the fixed slide select button. You can just make a selection there. You go slice editor, and then here on the service edit overview, okay, just zoom out a little bit. What you can do there is generate partitions, and you can decide how many soundings should be in one tile. And do you want square tiles or rectangular tiles? Well, I want square tiles for now. I'll okay that. And it's created the tiles for me. And so it's now selected one tile, and I just can step through the data systematically. I go to 3D view now, just to give some more, so you've got a better idea what you're looking at. And you can also offset the dynamic surface a little bit. So, and what you see here are the soundings. So the soundings selected on the slice editor. Yeah, I'll go back to auto zoom. So to make sure that I've got the minimum and maximum values in, and I'll use the control, the keyboard combination Control and R on the keyboard to hide the rejected soundings. So there. And then what we can do is just step through the data in a systematic way. So you can here see, okay, I've got some spikes there. Then I go to save edits instantly. I want to save the edits instantly, so when I do some cleaning there, and it saves the edits and it updates the dynamic surface. And then I can just use the W key on my keyboard and go forward. So the selection is moved forward, and then, okay, got some spikes there. So this is how some people also want it. I'm not sure if this is the most efficient way, but they've asked for it. So yeah. So if you keep an eye on the Service Edit Overview window as well, you can tell, okay, the gray area is where we've looked at, what we've looked at, and the red rectangulars, that's what we've saved. So that's what we've edited and saved. So you can just go forward, and you can see this area is getting gray. So we've looked at those soundings. There's also other selection buttons there, so you can lasso around the points and save and so on. So it will not ask me if I want to save the changes. It will just apply the changes now, and it will update the dynamic surface accordingly and immediately, because I've set it to always update. A little bit more information on the color coding of the soundings. So what you see here on the slice editor, this is color by line. So you can check your overlap, and this button is the color coding for the soundings on the 4D scene. So you can change the color coding. So these are independent. So you can just set it to color by depth, for example. So this is different than the color coding on the slice editor. Yeah, well, again, what you can do if you're finished your cleaning, what you can do, you can just say, okay, this shall be my checked area, and then again, you know where you've been visiting, editing, and you can tell your co-workers, okay, this is finished, this cleaning is finished, and you don't have to look at it again. It's done, and the data's good to go to the next step in our process, charting, volume calculations, whatsoever. Kat, before I continue, I think I need another 5 minutes or so to finish up, maybe 10 minutes. Are there any questions?
JB and I are currently answering them,
Okay,
but
good.
it's fine, just carry on.
Okay, good, thanks. Yeah, so what you also can do is you can reject soundings inside a predefined polygon. And before you do so, you can snapshot soundings to the scene. I'm going to demonstrate how you can do that. You can go to the right side next to the 4D scene, go to polygon select, so to the selection keys. And I know here is a key wall, so there's a key wall. Some people want their data, the key wall data retained. Others don't want the key wall data in their data set because they result in bad contouring. So what you can do is try and get rid of the soundings on the key wall, and before you do so, you snapshot the soundings to scene. So what I'll do now is I create a polygon there. If you got the XF for a cut file, you can also copy that and then save that to a polygon. So I've created the polygon. This is my active polygon. The data that's inside the polygon is selected now for Slice Editor. And here in Slice Editor, there is the Snapshot to Scene button. So what you can do is just click on it, and it will just snapshot the soundings to the scene. I'll show you what it looks like. Go there. So it snapshotted the soundings to the scene. And then what we'll do now is, okay, we've got this inside selection. You can go filter toolbar, reject soundings, and then run the filter to reject the soundings inside the selection. There you go. So what do we have? We've got the surface updated for deleting the soundings of the key wall, but we've still got the soundings available for future use. And the soundings will not be used for the charting right now, so you won't be getting any strange contours in there on your chart. The last, I think I almost get to the end of the demonstration. Okay, say we are happy now, we've finished the cleaning, and then what next? So what exports can you do? You can go dynamic surface, export to, for example, to bag, or for Rijkswaterstaat and Rijkswaterstaat contractors, we've implemented the export to BBH. And we can export to a surface that exports to an ASCII file, a gridded ASCII file. You can export to soundings, that's user-defined point cloud export. And you can also export to Fledermaus scene if you like. So you can go there, Fledermaus scene, and then you can just load the scene in Fledermaus. Maybe the last step I would like to show you, then I need to close down Qimera, and that is to, okay, what can you do now in processing? So you can just launch sounding grid tools. So if you want to do any volume calculations or contours or any actions on the sounding grid or on the dynamic surface that you need the grid tools for, you can just go to QINSy grid tools, and then I'll show you how you can do that. So this is the updated, yeah, that must be one. Oh, sorry about that. That's just a session. Okay, that's fine. I can just go there and then import the grid. I can just import it there. That's fine. So there we go. So there's the sounding grid, hopefully. There it is. It's only the color coding that's I'm not happy with, so we can just change that. QPS reversed. So this is my clean grid. So the cleaning has made it through to processing manager, and if you need to do any like volume calculations, contouring or surface differences or any other stuff that you would like to do from processing manager, that's also possible.